Everyone knows that you need to know how to code in order to be a software developer or an engineer. But this is not a video about coding, and tech is a lot more than just engineering. Tech companies also have product managers, designers, marketing, sales, operations. This video is about universal skills that are in demand in all tech professions and will give you a competitive advantage over other candidates. Hi, I'm Val, I'm a senior UX researcher and I've been working in tech for almost 5 years. And this is my take on the top 5 most in-demand skills that tech companies are looking for in new hires. I'll also give you some very concrete examples of how you could demonstrate those skills in your hiring interviews. Number 1, data literacy. Tech companies have to make huge and expensive decisions all the time, decisions that have huge implications for their customers and employees. And of course, they don't want to make these important decisions just on a whim. They want to use data to back up their decisions. Now, I don't mean that every product manager, designer, engineer, or operations manager that works in tech also needs to have a degree in data analytics. In fact, I'm not talking about data analytics at all when I'm talking about data literacy. Just like you don't need to be able to write a novel just in order to be able to read it and extract meaning out of it, you don't need to be able to query data, create fancy graphs and models in order to have data literacy. All you need to be able to do is to read those graphs and models and extract meaning out of them. Tech companies usually have data teams that will provide all of this analytics for you. But no matter which role you're in, you will be the one that needs to know which data you need. Which data will help you do your job. So you'll still be the one who will request that data from the analytics team, who will look at it, interpret it, and make decisions based on that data. In hiring interviews, you might get asked something along the lines of, could you tell me about a time when you used data to inform an important decision that you had to make? So let's imagine that you're just 18 years old and you got a summer job working at a juice bar. The store manager is considering putting up posters of juice around town to attract new customers, but can't decide which juice should be on the poster. To help your manager make this decision, you look at previous data of juice sales of the past couple of years. And you've noticed that green juice has been by far the best-selling product for several consecutive summers. So based on this data, you went to your manager and you recommended to use the green juice picture on the posters because your data told you that it was the most popular juice and therefore you assume that this juice would be the most likely to attract new customers to the store. This is a great example because it's not intimidating and it's not technical, and yet you can see how much potential impact data-driven decision-making can have versus just deciding something because you think it's the best way to go. Number 2, critical thinking. Critical thinking basically means your ability to think logically. It means that you're able to look at the is state, to distill the essential from the noise, to understand which criteria are important in a particular situation, and then to analyze potential options under these criteria. As a result of this analysis, you're often expected to propose what the best solution might be for any given situation. Just like data literacy, this skill is really job or profession agnostic, but it's really valued in tech. Keep in mind that it's not about having any specific knowledge or getting to the right decision. It's more about the process that you go through to get to that decision. In a hiring interview, your critical thinking skills will often be assessed with a whiteboarding challenge or with different kinds of problem analysis tasks. For example, I was once asked to perform a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for a med tech company. And with that analysis, my goal was to figure out and recommend whether a local hospital should close down their second branch or should keep it going for the next year. Now, I had 0 experience in medtech. I didn't have any kind of specific medical knowledge or any knowledge about how hospitals operate. I was provided some very basic information and was asked to show my thinking process in how I got to the decision. So again, my interviewers didn't really care which decision I got to, whether I'd recommend the hospital to close down or to remain open. What was more important is what kind of thinking process was going on that led to me reaching a particular decision. decision. My best tip to deal with these kinds of critical thinking tasks is to not panic and focus on the essentials. Then ask a lot of questions. The questions that you ask are really important because they show the kind of thinking process that you're going through, and they're even more important than the actual solution that you get to in the end. Again, don't worry about getting the right answer. It's not important here. Instead, focus on explaining your thinking process really well. The third universal in-demand skill in tech is communication. Communication is so key in tech, I cannot stress this enough. And that is because in tech, you tend to work in interdisciplinary teams, meaning that a lot of your colleagues that you work with on a daily basis will come from other disciplines. So they will have other knowledge, other skills, and even other perspectives on the problems that you're going to have to work on together. So it's going to be really important that you know how to communicate well and in simple terms to explain your process to your colleagues, but also to manage expectations with your stakeholders. Remember also that tech salaries are very high, and so everyone's time costs a lot of money to the company. So it's extra important that you know how to be clear and concise so that you don't waste everyone's time. In an interview situation, it's really important that you don't ramble. If you're rambling because you're nervous or you have ADHD or for any other reason, do mention it. I would really recommend to mention it so that people know that you're not careless with other people's time and you're really doing your best. I've also found that people often ramble in interviews when they're trying to cover up insecurities or lack of knowledge. Therefore, never start answering a question before you 100% know that you understand what the question is and what is expected of you. If the question or expectations aren't clear, make sure to ask and clarify. This will help you calibrate your answer and make sure that it is direct and relevant from the get-go. If you don't know how to answer a question straight away, feel free to ask for a minute to think. It's also completely acceptable for you to ask for a pointer in the right direction if you're feeling lost. It's much better to give half a good answer than keep rambling and not really give an answer at all. Aside of the actual hiring interviews, make sure that your resume, your cover letter, and your email communications are effective and on point. And if this is something you're struggling with, then try to use software like Grammarly to help you out, or even consider taking a course to improve your communication. Number 4 in the top 5 in-demand skills in tech is initiative, also referred to as being proactive. Tech is a really dynamic field, and so tech companies really want their employees to have a can-do attitude. But we all know that attitude is not enough. What employers really want to see is action. This means that you're not ignoring problems or waiting for instructions. Instead, when you see a problem, you actually do something about it. It means that you go above and beyond to contribute, even if this type of contribution is not something that is expected of you in your role. In a hiring interview, it's great to bring up examples where you did something useful that wasn't technically required of you, but you did it anyway. So let's imagine again that you're 18 and you're working at a juice bar, and you're noticing that one of the juicers is starting to heat up and the juices turn out warmer than usual. Instead of ignoring this problem or letting someone else deal with it, when you had some downtime, you looked at the instructions to the juicer online and you fixed the problem by oiling it. Or you raised the problem with the manager and asked for permission to call a professional to fix it. What's important is that you did something. You were proactive and you showed initiative, and that goes a really long way. This particular example again has nothing to do with tech, but tech companies are looking for exactly these kinds of people. And last but not least, among the top 5, we have empathy. Tech companies have money, and so they can pretty much hire anyone. So they are much less likely to hire someone who is mean or arrogant, even if that person is absolutely brilliant and intelligent. Because there is no I in team. One mean, egocentric, and disrespectful person can take a toll on the whole team. They can even poison the culture of a whole company if this person is in a leadership position. Tech companies don't take this risk. Empathy, on the other hand, helps create a supportive and motivating work environment where people can thrive. Empathy also makes sure that you're able to act in the best interest of your customers and that you care about serving them to the best of your ability. In short, tech companies want you to care about your colleagues and your customers, not just about your paycheck. So in a hiring interview, be kind, be empathetic, and show examples of caring for others. Examples of sticking up for your colleagues or for the customers of the company you worked for. Share share examples of being collaborative and finding compromises when there is a disagreement instead of pushing for your own agenda. And finally, and this is a bit counterintuitive, don't talk only about yourself. Now, it can be hard to implement because in an interview setting, people ask questions about you all the time. But make sure to credit your colleagues where credit is due as well. Be clear about which parts of the projects that you're presenting you take credit for and which parts were a team effort, or maybe even someone else's contribution entirely. When you show your empathy, you're likely to outperform other candidates that might seem self-centered or arrogant, even if those other candidates technically have more experience or skills. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments which skills you'll be focusing on showcasing in your next tech interview. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel for more content like this where I share advice about how to get into tech and UX research more specifically.